Alcoholics Anonymous has a 3 to 5%, only a 3 to 5% success rate of getting people to come in and sit in that chair for the first time and then still be sober with that program for 5 years. What I want to talk to you about today is called the Sinclair Method. That is a method that has a 70% success rate of getting people from 0 days clean to 5 years sobriety, and it's measured because this is a prescription that has to be tracked. This is not a synthetic opiate. You don't feel high from it. It's not even a controlled substance, so there's no money in it for big pharma, and people don't get high when they take it, so it's obviously not going to be very popular and widely known, so I want to get this information out. All right, so I did it. Let me qualify myself. I earned my seat in AA. I had a pretty severe run of opiates. Started with, got hurt on my ankle when I was 19. Ended with an 80 to 120 milligram Oxycontin habit per day, or black tar heroin. It's embarrassing to admit, but that's part of my story. I wouldn't change it because it had, anyways, different situation there. I was doing a gram or 2 of meth a day and drinking about a half gallon of cheap gut rot vodka and whatever else I could get my hands on. That went on for 4 or 5 years, 5 or 6 years actually. So I couldn't get sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I tried. I'd get 4 months, I'd get 4 years, I get just multiple, and I was dealing with physical cravings that I was told was a spiritual malady. I was told was a powerlessness, a lack of willpower. It's not. And so the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous were actually experimenting with plant compounds and hallucinogenics and barbiturates and other. I'm sure they'd be open to weed. Today's AA is not open to weed, but point being, the founders were aware that there's more to this than just a spiritual malady, and we were born. There's no gene for addiction, by the way. There is no verified gene that here's your addiction gene. There are people that have a cluster of certain genes that makes them more sensitive to chemicals and emotions and things like that, and that's generalized. That is a high level in people with addiction, but not just alcohol and drugs. There's all kinds of different areas. So in a way, I guess you could call that a gene for addiction, but it's not. So anyways, let me get to it. The Sinclair Method is, the original version is a shot that you get once a month. It's called Vivitrol. You take this shot, it blocks your opiate and alcohol receptors, so you can't feel it if you drink it, and you don't have a craving, because a lot of what people were dealing with, when you're 6, 7, 8 months sober and you get hit with that chest burning, stomach wrenching, mind spinning desire to pick up a drink, what the fuck is that? You haven't had a drink in a long time. That's not your fault. Like, what, it wasn't because you didn't hit enough meetings. It's because you're dealing with physical damage from all the drinking you did. This helps that. And when you first block those receptors and you feel what it's like to have no physical cravings, it's gonna shock you. It's 99% easier to stay sober than without this medication. I stayed on it for, I haven't had a drink since 2015 this time, and I stayed on Vivitrol for 10 months. It was, I've been sober off that ever since. So anyone in AA watching this, I can give you some peace of mind right now. I smoke weed. I smoke a little bit of weed in the evenings. I eat the occasional mushroom. So you can ignore in your head and anything, anything that I say, that's fine. But anyone else who's open-minded and wants to hear more, so it's a shot you get once a month. And then the other version is a pill called naltrexone, and you take it once a day. Now in AA, I worked with thousands of dudes. I got one through the steps who's still sober 5 years later, and that wasn't even because of me. This dude was just done. All I did is point him what to do. I didn't have to push him or anything. He was just done. One out of thousands. Think about that. You know how sad that is? I've watched so many people die. It's not sad for me, it's sad for their families, and it's a horrible affliction, this alcohol and this drug stuff. And so, yeah, that's not good odds. So I've gotten a handful of people, not me, I'm not a doctor, you gotta see a doctor for this, but I have encouraged them to take Vivitrol and naltrexone. You wanna know how many are sober multiple years later and some over 5 years later? 100% of them. What does that tell you? It's at least worth looking at. It's only $1 a day for naltrexone medication. You go online and you see an online doctor, they do an initial video consultation, and they send it to your local pharmacy. Not a controlled substance. There's no, you don't get high, you don't feel anything. So then you get to quiet the physical cravings. All right, now you're at bat to do the work, because you're still left with all of the mental pain and the lifestyle choices and the methods of thinking that have created the desire to drink. And so that's what Vivitrol is designed to do, in my opinion, and you can use it in conjunction with AA. That's what I did. Again, my opinion of Alcoholics Anonymous, if you go in and you go to a meeting every day for a year and a half and you're done with the steps by a year, you're sponsoring, you're gonna learn everything that program can ever teach you. And you sit around there even longer than that, you're just resharpening the same axe until it goes dull, and then you're gonna drink around 5 years. And they call that the 5-year menopause in AA. It's not. It's that there's tools that need to be looked at and sought after outside of AA. I'm going to try not to go on too much of a rant. I just want to get this out there. I did a previous video on, alcoholics, like why I left Alcoholics Anonymous, and there was a lot of negativity and a little bit of mention of how I actually got sober, so I wanted to expand on that. If you guys have questions on it, hit me up. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a coach. I make $0 in any form from any digital content. I'm doing this to try to help because I had a very severe problem with this stuff, and I found a way out. My life is incredible. It's very hard right now. Like, I'm not going to go into why, but since leaving AA, man, I've gone through buying houses, losing a career, changing a career, my daughter's cancer. I've gone through a psych med change, which is a big, that's a big ordeal to go through. So anyways, longer story. That's what I wanted to get out today, is that I'm sorry if you're suffering from alcohol and you don't have to. But again, this is a video for people who want to get sober. Not want to get sober, but want to actually be sober so they can work on themselves to create a life that doesn't have room or the need for drinking. That's the whole problem here, is people are missing that you don't just quit drinking. You have to create an entire life where you don't need it. And so you can't do that if you're constantly drinking because you're dealing with physical cravings. That's where this can help. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Dude, seriously, hit me up if you have any questions. I did this. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to encourage you to take, that's not what but if I can help in any way, that's why I'm putting this video out there. It's embarrassing to put this content out. So hopefully, I make no money for this. This is literally to help. All right, have a good day, guys.